Clerk, please take the roll.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 3:02 p.m. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Schran.
Here.
Ms. Baker. Ms. Baker is absent. Ms. Simon. Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Ms. Stevens. Ms. Stevens is absent. You have a quorum. And also let the record reflect that Mr. Miller is also in attendance.
And Mr. Miller has been appointed to this committee. Is that correct?
We have a quorum now, so it's
okay,
not
all right.
necessary.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone sign on for a public comment?
No public comment has been received.
Okay. Minutes of the July 11th meeting. Did everybody a chance to look at those? Hoping you have. Chair will move to approve the minutes of the July 11th meeting. Has there been a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor of the approval of the minutes of July 11th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes have been approved. We have one matter to come before the committee that was submitted from last council meeting. Please read it into the record.
Resolution 2022-0248, authorizing a grant award to National Council for Community Development, doing business as National Development Council, in the amount not to exceed $2 million as fiscal agent and administrator of the Cuyahoga County Small Business Grant Program, commencing upon contract signature of all parties for a period of 1 year.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this issue from the council staff? I mean, from the executive staff?
Good afternoon, everyone. Vaughn Johnson, Department of Development. Thanks for having me here today. We're really excited about this project. To get the PowerPoint up. Joining me today are going to be some folks from the President's Council, Erica Pinnick, Jumpstart, Patty Ajukowicz, and National Development Council, NDC, Drick Bennett, and Jasmine Bloxson. Cuyahoga County's 5-year economic development plan recognizes and emphasizes the importance of small business as a key driver in innovation, job creation, wealth creation, and economic opportunity. Within the small business sector, the county further recognizes the need for targeted and active financial support to small and minority-owned businesses. With a very special thanks to County Executive Armand Budish, who was very instrumental in supporting this program, I'm pleased to announce Cuyahoga County's Small Business Grant Funding Program and the program's application process. With council authorization, up to $2 million of American Rescue Plan funds will be made available through the grants administrator, which was selected on a competitive basis by the Small Business Grants Advisory Committee, comprised of many small business experts throughout Cuyahoga County. The Small Business Grants Program is a competitive grants program making county grant awards available through the administrator and open to all Cuyahoga County small businesses with an eye on minority business enterprises. Before I go any further, I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge the folks that have been working with me since April in putting this program together. Sue He from the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, Erica Pinnick, the President's Council, Randy Cedino, the Hispanic Business Chamber, Elizabeth Kuzma, Global Cleveland, Jasmine Dixon from the Economic Development Institute, ECDI, Chad Hammond from the Greater Cleveland Partnership, Michael Elliott from Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, Marco Gurovic from the Ohio Minority Business Development Agency, Anthony Gillespie from the Ohio Aerospace Institute, Karen Wyvel from the Procurement and Technical Assistance Center, Patty Ajukowicz from Jumpstart, Felicia Townsend from UBiz and the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. All these folks assisted me, as well as some internal staff, Bob Flato and Anthony Stella as well. In the development of this program, the committee focused on 3 words: impactful, significant, and transformative. These 3 words became the foundation and the beacon in which this program was developed. With that in mind, the committee decided to focus on small businesses that have survived and even thrived through the pandemic and are now seeking to grow and scale their businesses with the strategy of expansion and job creation. The grants administrator will provide grants directly to small businesses in amounts up to $50,000 each, with an eye on MBE organizations to assist them with scaling their business. As this grant is not for pandemic relief, it is a grant for small businesses that have survived the pandemic and are seeking to grow and expand. I wanted to take a moment and go over some of the criteria, as this is a public meeting and this grant has not been announced just yet. I don't want to reveal every aspect of the criteria, but I do want to go over some of it, and then my colleagues are going to talk about some of it a little bit after me. Next slide, please. So if you take a look at the criteria, you'll see some basic criteria there. Obviously, there has to be a fully executed grants application. This grant is for-profit businesses only, so nonprofits would be ineligible. The maximum grant award amount would be $50,000. Total funds available are $2 million, as I mentioned. The application limit is 1 per business owner or project. The funding period will end December 31st, 2022, or when the funds run out, hopefully way before that. There are some approved grant uses that we worked in collaboration with the Small Business Administration. Geographic boundaries are Cuyahoga County. There is, the grant funds must be used by the end of year 2023. And Cuyahoga County also reserves the right up to 7 years to look back at those grant awardees to assure that they actually use those dollars as they stated that they would in their application process. And then the awards will be reviewed by NDC, and they will be sent in a batch to the grants committee, which will make the final decision. So NDC will recommend those that have made it through the criteria, and then the committee, there's 2 committees, which I'll touch on in just a minute, will actually go through and make the final decision on those. And the reason we wanted to do that is these are small business experts. They work with them every single day in everything that they do, and we wanted to make sure that they had the final word on who received the grant and who with that program. And with that, I'm going to go over the scoring criteria, and I'm going to ask Jasmine Bloxson and Patty Ajukowicz to come up from NDC and Jumpstart, if they would please walk through the grants scorecard. And the weighting was the weighting was intentionally left off this report, again, because it is not public just yet.
Thank you very much. So there's going to be, oh, thank you for that. My name is Jasmine Blacks, and I'm here on behalf of National Development Council. So as you can see on this screen, there are some pass-fail criteria for the grant program. As Vaughn mentioned, this is for-profit entities. There are a few certain type of for-profit entities that will be ineligible. For example, those that have primarily sales in tobacco or gambling, as well as businesses where the real estate is not owner-occupied. If it's a real estate investment company, or if that real estate company does not have any employees. Also, illicit adult entertainment, and those who are currently incarcerated or on parole are not eligible to apply for this program. I believe I touched on all of the criteria, except for the fact, I didn't mention that the business does have to be 2 years or older. And so if the business was not formed as of January 1st of 2020, they are not eligible to apply for this program. And then also for the years of 2020 and 2021, they had to have revenue above $35,000 as reported on their tax return, and that is gross revenue. And then they may not have more than 50 full-time equivalent employees, and all of these things will be verified by documents provided by the applicant during the application process and reviewed by NDC. Lastly, it helps if the business plans to have outside sources of capital for their grant use. So if they plan to make a purchase, if they have a project or some specific purpose for the grant funds, it does help them if they have outside capital to contribute to that project. And then also if they plan to create or retain jobs. Nope. Are there any questions about how we plan to evaluate applications?
Questions by anybody in the committee? Questions? Well, as long as they haven't, I will. On the previous slide, it talked about having this termination as far as these applications had to be in by December 31st.
Actually, so
that
funding
Funding was the year afterwards, but the application process, it looks like, when does?
On Johnson Development. Actually, Chairman, the grant window will be open for approximately 30 days.
30 days.
30 days.
Ooh, that's even less than.
But we would like the funds to be distributed by the end of the year.
Okay, so that means you've got to get 40 applicants minimum to exhaust these funds.
That's correct.
Do you have do you have 40 that fit this criteria that you have just allocated, just listed, that are in the queue right now?
Well, since the Executive Budish made the announcement on March the 24th, we established an email address, smallbusinessgrants@cuyahogacounty.us, and we have over 50 businesses that have actually expressed an interest to be notified when the grant window opens.
But that's not 50 that qualify for this.
No, it's not, but we have a very strong marketing plan that we're going to do to get the word out about the grant. And many times, these types of grants, the window's only open for about 2 weeks. But the committee wanted to keep it open longer for the purpose of reaching the intended awardees. That's why the window is open as long as it actually is.
Okay, so you're comfortable you're going to get 40, at least 40, because that would be the maximum. I mean, if they all hit the maximum of $50,000, that's what you'd have. And so
Right.
with only 50, that's not much of a cushion. I would think you're going to have some people who aren't going to hit these targets.
Well, the good news is if the grant window closes and we still have money left and there's no other companies in queue, we can actually open up the window again, let folks know, hey, we're going to open the window again.
Okay, just what are we authorizing as far as law director by doing this? Are we authorizing a one-time window or from law department, or are we authorizing this to be ad hoc, that they can continue to reopen it on subsequent events?
This is Jared Zabrotowski from the Law Department. My understanding, this is just a one-time thing that we're going to do. If they want to do it again and again, they can bring it as a separate item and continue the process, but my understanding is once.
I just want to make sure that we're hearing that loud and clear, because if you open it for a 30-day window, the 30 days open is closed, and you haven't gotten your applicants, I want to make sure that we don't have an oops in the middle of the process.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Next, I'm going to have Erica Pennick from the Executive Director from the President's Council talk a little bit about the state of small businesses, especially Black MBEs, and why grants and why now. Erica?
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Pennick. I'm the Executive Director of the President's Council. Some of this information I'm going to share with you will directly address the question that you asked about how will we get the applicants and are we sure that we'll have enough? Excuse me. As reported by the Kaiser Family Foundation, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, persistent wealth gap challenges included access to mortgages and home ownership, securing employment and higher income, paying for education and using student loans, and information and resource accessibility. From October 2020 to October 2021, 1 in 5 businesses shut down. That's 21.7% of small businesses that temporarily closed a location, 7% that reopened after closing, 16.8% of those small businesses permanently closed, and 41% were Black-owned businesses that have been shuttered by COVID-19. One of my core tenets is that entrepreneurship is the power to give jobs, build generational wealth, and ultimately influence is the single most transformational component to disrupt and shatter the status quo. Being a small business owner is hard, particularly for Black-owned businesses. Not only are you dealing with challenges in terms of funding and diminished access to resources, but there are also fundamental systematic inequalities. 80% of Black entrepreneurs identify lack of capital as the most challenging aspect of running their business, and most of them fund their own businesses without investments or loans. In fact, Black women-led startups have received only 0.0006% of all venture capital funded in the last decade. Less than 5% of Black-owned businesses have paid employees. Black entrepreneurs are having to go it alone and having to perform every function of the business by themselves. Acknowledging the lack of funding and employees small and particularly Black business owners face, it's almost impossible for most of them to scale their businesses. Solopreneurs have limits, particularly when they don't have the funding to expand. We know from the 2019 report by the Cleveland State University Levin College of Urban Affairs examining inclusive growth minority-owned firms in the Cleveland-Elyria MSA brief, there are just over 31,000 minority-owned firms, just under 23,000 that are Black-owned, 3,000 Asian-owned, and roughly 2,000 classified as other minorities. Of the 31,000 firms, 3,000 have employees, and only 822 of the nearly 24,000 Black-owned firms have employees. In order for a business to scale and be positioned to successfully compete, it must have the necessary technology, talent, and finances to do so. Small business grants are essential to leveling the playing field for institutions that are already starting from a position of lack. This advisory committee has put forth recommendations in consideration of these factors toward economic equality through financial empowerment. The President's Council's Business Chamber is Northeast Ohio's only Black business chamber. We represent just under 300 Black-owned businesses. We will not have a problem identifying businesses to apply for these funds. We have a strong cohort with this advisory committee with pipelines and access to businesses that need these funds. Thank you.
Thank you for answering that question.
Hi, Vaughn Johnson, Department of Development. I wanted to talk about the grants administrator process. The Department of Development invited 8 potential organizations to submit proposals to serve as the grants administrator and fiscal agent. The applications were screened and accepted 4 qualifying proposals from the pool of submissions received. These proposals were reviewed through a DOD-appointed Small Business Grants Advisory Committee, which I shared with you earlier. These professional business experts from which they scored them and recommended the successful highest scoring applicant to serve as the administrator, which was NDC, which I did not vote on the grants administrator. The invitation process looked for best combinations of grant administration experience, staff capacity, business reputation, technical expertise. Submitting organizations either already operated and or had vast experience and technological infrastructure. The focus was to identify organizations that have the experience, knowledge, and capacity to serve as the administrator and fiscal agent, also had established small business programs with a record of success, as well as new approach models were considered. Organizational experience and track record in these arenas was critical. The 8 invitations that were sent out were from bottom to top: Ohio Aerospace Institute, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, Jumpstart, Smart Development, UBiz at the Urban League of Greater Cleveland, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, Economic and Community Development Institute, and NDC, which the council selected. So when NDC makes their recommendations to the council, we created 2 subcommittees so that they could evaluate this batch of recommendations. I split them up into 2 of my favorite things, which is Marvel Comics and DC Comics. And there's a purpose to that. The business group is going to focus on the recommendations of just a normal operating business. Team DC will do the same, but they will also focus on businesses that maybe have a technology background. So we specifically put some of the committee members that have that technical expertise, that technology expertise, to better evaluate those recommendations. And as we talked earlier, the grant window timeline is 30 days. Following the council approval on August the 2nd, the grant window announcement will be made, and the grant window will open hopefully on August the 3rd. There was some discussion about when the grant window will close, but it will not stay open longer than September the 8th, which is after the Labor Day holiday. There's some basic contract terms and conditions that we went through with our counsel, legal counsel. And with that, I'm going to ask Drick Bennett to come up from NDC, and he's going to talk to you about NDC and their capacity and their experience as the grant administrator and fiscal agent. Drick?
To the chair, to the committee, thank you for the opportunity. We're excited and grateful to have the opportunity to at least present to you our capacity to distribute this $2 million in grants. I believe I always have struggled with your NDC. I've appeared, Drick Bennett, sorry, I should have introduced myself. Drick Bennett, I'm the Director of Small Business Credit for NDC Small Business Lending. NDC, I presented you before, NDC is the nation's oldest national nonprofit for community and economic development. We concentrate our efforts in 2 main areas. One is capacity building. We're pretty well known for training. As I look in the audience, I have former students behind me. The other thing that we do are financing and development. We finance a lot of small businesses, and we actually work on real estate development projects as well. New market tax credits, low-income housing tax credits. We're pretty broad in our breadth of what we engage in. NDC, this program will be housed. We have 2 CDFIs with NDC. There's the Grow America Fund, which is a SBA 7A lending entity, and the Community Impact Loan Fund. Community Impact Loan Fund is loans normally $150,000 or less. 7A's loans normally about $150,000 or more. The Community Impact Loan Fund has funded over 43 million total in small business loans. We're really proud of the fact that 39 million of that have gone to WMBEs in our history. And there's roughly, 720 different loans buried in that amount. Our total lending for NDC is roughly 264 million, of which about 190 million have gone to communities either owned by folks with low income or owned by low to moderate income or located in a low to moderate income census tract. As far as grant, we've discovered that we're quite good at dispersing grants. We've done over 571 million since the start of the pandemic in a variety of initiatives of a variety of sizes. The largest one I worked on was a $100 million grant program out of the state of Washington. And the smallest one I did was like 500,000 for a small community in Nevada. This program is right up our alley. We feel very comfortable. We really appreciate the group that the county staff put together to help us get applicants in. It is a who's who of small business lending within our community. We're going to be mission driven with this. We did have some input on the scorecard, but at the end of the day, we're going to process the applications, give them the scorecard, and the committee and county staff will have final say over who gets the grant. Again, it was 571 million to over almost 31,000 different businesses that got a grant from us in the past 2.5 years, and 10.1 million. That is our housing subsidy, where we did some housing programs where we helped out 2,200 families. You are building a capital continuum. I don't want this to look like it's a one-off program. It's, at least with NDC. There's the grant program, and the President's Council just discussed the importance of grants, especially minority-owned businesses. We have our active program that you recently approved. Thank you again, where we're about $400,000 into it with about 5 businesses. That's a $600,000 loan program. Those loans are $100,000 or less. Previously, we did about $3 million with 34 businesses in that program for loans $100,000 or less. And then we have our 7A. So that's probably $100,000 or more, where we've funded over 50 businesses for a total of $38 million in project costs. So it is a continuum. What we're going to use for this, we used a variety of different platforms. Believe it or not, the best one we found was SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey will be our platform for this. There are bullets. Hopefully you got copies of the presentation. But basically, SurveyMonkey allows unlimited applications. It allows unlimited users on our end, so help. It has branching logic, so if somebody applies who's not eligible, we'll send them to a page saying, sorry, you're just not eligible. You didn't meet one of the criteria. You'll get a personalized URL, meaning it will be on the county's website. It'll be personal to this program. And it has high volume capacity, as well as it's very easy and friendly to use on our side, as well as the potential grantee side. As important, we've learned, is the reporting. It basically produces reports in Excel, and you can manipulate it in Excel any way you want. So we can tell you how many people applied up to the moment, how many people applied, what size of business they were, because you can break down in Excel any which way that you want it. What the potential grants that they were interested in, and where they're at in the status. Did they provide us everything that we asked for? And the basic grant parameters, again, it's up there again. Existing business, 24 months or older, less than 50 employees, sales greater than 35,000 per year, but less than 5 million. And we're going to tier it. We've been asked to tier it. These are the criteria that the county and their committee put together. Sales between 35,000 to 65,000 will be eligible for a $10,000 grant. 65,000 to 1,499 will be eligible for a 25,000 grant, and then sales higher than 150 to 5 million would be eligible for a 50,000 grant. And I know I talk fast. I apologize for that, but I open to your questions.
Questions be put on the committee? Any questions? And what's the administrative fee from NDC?
9%, which is about $150,000.
Okay.
And that's typical.
Just, you're doing work, so you got to get compensated. So I was just curious what you were. Ms. Simon?
Just a quick question. This might be for Vaughn. Is this the first time we've had a program like this in terms of pure grants for small businesses? Is this something new or different, or we just have an opportunity now to fund?
My understanding is this is a new type of a grant program, because in the past has typically been for stabilization or emergency relief or something along those lines with the pandemic, especially of this size. Again, these are dollars that are going to be used for businesses to continue to grow and expand their operations.
The NDC, what were the amounts of that? What were the parameters of the one that we just did a few years ago, or a little bit ago for you guys? Didn't we do a program?
Did a $10,000 loan program during the pandemic, where it was $10,000 loans to small businesses. We did about 23 of those.
Wasn't there some provision whereby you could get a?
Oh, that is the active program right now.
You get a forgiveness on there?
Yeah, and there is a forgiveness portion to that.
Which, for all intents and purposes, a forgiveness portion becomes a grant.
It's 25%.
Yeah, okay.
They're eligible.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they file their taxes, give us copies so we can monitor them, give us copies of their tax returns, and keep employment levels stable or higher, they could get 25% of their grant forgiven.
Okay.
That's the program where it's about a $600,000 program.
So I guess it doesn't overlap, or it does overlap.
Those are loans of up to $100,000.
Mr. Johnson, can you make sure that the green button is lit on the mic?
Those are loans of up to $100,000. So the businesses tend to be larger. What I like about this program is that you're going all the way down to $35,000 or higher, and it's a grant where their debt capacity
Pure
isn't going to
grant.
be that
And
great.
for any,
And yeah, I can tell you, working the pandemic, how many businesses are operating out of homes today, that would be eligible for this.
Okay.
It's exciting. Other questions from anybody? Okay. Is there anything more to be presented? And based on this number, we had a mentioning, I think that from one presentation that there would not be any difficulty in finding. Somebody from the President's Council had mentioned that, but these numbers, I didn't realize that it drops off to 35,000 when you get down to smaller revenue pieces. That still won't be a hard time finding that many candidates in a 2-week or 2.5 week period of time.
No, and that was intentional. Obviously, we wanted to be able to reach some micro enterprises, which that $35,000 revenue number definitely addresses.
Okay. Good luck. I hope so. Hope you can find it. Hope you can get it all distributed, get people working. The faster, the better. In that respect.
Thank you. I have a request, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yes. Approval of the suspension of the second reading, please.
Yeah, based on your timeline, you need not only get approved by the second, he needs to sign it by the third because it doesn't become law unless he actually moves. So that we'll get our part done, I think, by the second. But the executive has to put it into law. So you need to make sure because you actually called for activity on the third. Yes, Ms. Simon.
I was going to make a motion
Okay, great.
to move, should I?
Yes, please do.
Move this resolution to the next full council meeting with the recommendation of passage under second reading suspension.
And I'll second that because, and I also would like to see my name associated with this. 'Cause
I'll put my name
I'm a
on.
jobs kind of person, as you probably already understand.
Y'all are.
Yeah, I think I mean, no, I meant, I don't usually put my name on stuff.
Oh, that's true.
It's only when it has a job-related component to it.
You could add my, excuse me, if you could add my name
Great.
as well. I usually do put my name on stuff.
Any other discussion? We've got a movement, it's been seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Let me guess. You'd like to have your name put on it also?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm just a guesser. Okay, sounds great. Any other discussion? And thank you very much, Mr. Miller, for coming, even though we ended up having a quorum. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. It'll go to council. Is there any miscellaneous business? Hearing none. Thank you very much.